Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 30th of March, probably our last session for March, and we will move into April. April will be almost spring for us here in the US. Welcome. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. And I wanted to introduce all those that are right now available on the panel. We welcome April, who is our psychic, as well as knows quite a few modalities of healing. Good evening, April, and is a spiritual teacher. Then we have Kelly.
Uh-oh, Poonam stopped. Froze. Only Poonam is frozen, right?
Yes. That's weird.
Yeah, just Poonam's frozen because I can see the rest of you moving.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I wonder if she can hear us or not.
I don't know if she can hear us. This is the first time that she's been frozen.
Yes.
So
Maybe you should go on the Facebook. Oh,
She'll
April,
come.
you're hosting.
I okay.
Go ahead, April. Introductions. Introductions.
We have some of our regular panel members. We have Kelly and Kelly, our spiritual Qigong teachers. We have Ken with us and Patricia.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So we were talking about what are we going into, Kelly? I thought we were going into Aries, but my daughter is a Taurus and her birthday's coming. So the energy has changed. We talked about the energy change today.
Yeah, it is. We are about to go into Aries. And Taurus happens later in April. My
daughter's
oh, there she is.
your birthday's in April?
April 22nd is when the House of Taurus starts.
Okay.
Right, that's my daughter's birthday.
April 22nd.
Yes.
Oh, same as his birthday.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Really?
So she's an Aries Taurus then.
Welcome back,
She's a
Poonam.
lot of
Hey
of
guys, my laptop
we
rebooted.
finished, yeah, we finished the introductions and just started talking, so there was, not dead air.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's amazing that Zoom did not disconnect all of you, because normally when the host disconnects, then everybody gets disconnected, but it allowed me to reboot and then come back in.
We have a lot of power here. We have a lot of power.
Exactly. Like the universe is really supportive of what we are doing. So did you want to talk, y'all were talking something about what this
Energy.
day is, the energy of the day. What were you saying, April?
I was saying that the energy feels like it's changed, and for me and Patricia, the energy felt pressured. For you, you had a blissful day, but for me, it just seemed like everything was like, go now, go now, go now, do, which is like an Aries Taurus type energy. So I was saying to Kelly, and I didn't specify which one. I just said, we're going in. I hear we're going into Aries, but my daughter's birthday is coming and she's a Taurus.
Yep.
So then we found out that my daughter and Kelly,
It's
his
fine.
birthday and my daughter are same day.
No way. What day is
Yep.
that?
It's April 22nd.
Oh, wow.
And I
It's smack in
remember
the
when
middle of
I
the
was,
Aries Taurus cusp.
it's in the middle.
It's in the middle of the
Okay.
Aries Taurus cusp. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was pregnant for my daughter and they had to do a scheduled C-section and they told me she was going to be a Taurus and I cried.
Oh no.
Cried. But I'm going to blame it on the pregnancy hormones, but I literally cried and was like, no.
Why?
But
You don't
actually,
like Taurus?
actually some of my I still have a friend from high school who is a Taurus, and really good friend. And then, Kelly, of course, awesome person. But Tauruses are the bull and they are stubborn. And if they don't control the per se heavier side, they can be materialistic. And so I cried. Yes.
I have two. I have a
Mm.
son and a daughter. They're 8 years apart, but one's May 3rd and the other's May 4th.
Yeah.
The oldest and the youngest. So, yep. That's right.
And then Kelly here, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm in the middle because
And you're in the middle. Yeah.
one of your other daughters is fire, and you're fire.
On fire. Yeah.
And the Aries Taurus were famous for having the steadfastness and dedication of a Taurus, and the stubbornness, and the fire of an Aries. So just sort of, when we make up about something, we will literally change the laws of the universe to make it happen.
That's
So
actually, I would like to ask you, because on Netflix, there was a documentary about astronomy versus astrology, something. And science completely says there is nothing. All the signs, there is no laws like gravity that would point that people born in specific times of the year have something in common, or their life is in any way the same because they're under the same sign. So I don't know if you watched it, but basically everything was just discarded. And they said that because Earth moves, or the planets, stars moved, everything is moved one sign forward. So I'm no longer Leo. I should be Virgo now,
Well, it's very simple. It's particle physics, stellar particle physics. So scientists who say that there's nothing to astrology are discounting.
Because the stars, they're reading the sky based on the flat constellation. In the meantime, it's 3D. So if you look from a different angle, it's completely different relations and stuff.
No, I get that. And yeah, there is always celestial evolution. But anyone who says that there's nothing to astrology, or the energy snapshot of a moment of energy in time and space, doesn't understand that what they're actually talking about is particle physics. We're all about particle physics. We're humans. We're a collection of particles, whether it's bacteria, physiology, the molecular structure of everything. It's all particle physics. So anyone who dismisses astrology, you have to understand that astrology has been dismissed because there are certain mathematical principles at play that, if you understand them and can even grasp the basic nature of them, you actually have a much better understanding of why the powers that be do some of the stupid things that they do, because they're very ritualistic and they need to continue their rituals to continue promoting and serving the energies that they do. So one of the reasons why astrology is dismissed pretty much outright by the quote unquote science.
But it
It's always a good word.
it's maybe they're not dismissing the mathematical part of it and physics, but the fact that they actually controls our moods or our characters, our personalities, our events in our life, that part. They're saying that has nothing to do one with the other.
Well, I think look at the moon, right? Like how the moon, full moon, or like the new moon, like the energies that come in at that time, or the things that people release, we are affected by that. The tides are affected by the moon, and we're water, right? We have a lot of water.
Got to ask those scientists
So,
if they believe in gravity.
I always think about that too. And I think there's a lot of things too where I like to look at the astrological, it's not projections, but
No, physically
the
we
things
will
that
be,
are-
we
yeah.
will be, affected, but they're talking about, our mental, more of a personality traits that people say, oh, he is Virgo, so he is very balanced, or he is, Taurus, he's stubborn, stuff like that.
Well, you
It's
have to understand
because of
that a
the
lot-
energy when you were created, your two cells that turned into 50 trillion cells at that moment was when the sign of Virgo was in position. That affected all your cells that
Yep.
were being created at that magic moment.
Yep.
And we are affected when each planet, because each planet, so if you want to take more scientific, each planet has a density, it has a gravity, it has a pull. So when these planets come into orbit closer to us or farther away from us, they have a different effect on us, on Earth, on our Schumann resonance, on our moon,
Planets,
on
yes,
our,
but
right?
the signs have nothing to do with the planets. They're the
Yes,
stars,
they do.
constellations,
do.
of stars.
No, they have absolutely everything to do with the planets.
Yep.
Yes, they do.
But the sign is this. Aren't the signs described by the
But
constellation?
if you have if you get a complete astrological reading, it will include Pluto, Neptune in your chart, in your nodes, in your, yes, it
So it's really about
absolutely,
the planets, not the stars, really,
It's
right?
both.
yeah. Well, there are some stars that are added, but it's actually about the placement of Earth versus
Mhm.
the planets, the sun, Mars, all of that. It's more about, like when I said Aries, that we're moving into this time frame, that's when the planets, we have a pattern that the universe repeats. We repeat our patterns, the universe repeats its patterns.
Right.
So yes, actually it is about personality and mood. And just like Kelly was saying, when the moon, we have a full moon, you hear the phrase, oh, everybody's crazy because of the full moon. It is a factor. It does play a factor. So yes, it's more, actually, it's more scientific than it's not. To me, it is anyways. So it's about where the planets were in the galaxy at the time of creation. That will, and then you're born into this world at that moment where those planets are. That's when you take your first breath of life, and you have that influence on the earth at that moment.
Yep.
Right. So it does affect your personality, and I do find most of them to be very true and to be very similar. Now, for me, there's many aspects. You have your sun sign and your moon sign and your rising sign, and you have all these other signs. So for me, it was interesting what you were saying about Aries a minute ago, Kelly, because my rising sign is actually Aries. I am a Cancer.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
Cancer, but I have an Aries rising sign, and I believe my moon sign is actually a Scorpio.
Mine too. It's a
So I'm
Scorpio.
all kinds of fun, right?
I have a Scorpio
Yeah.
ascendant. My ascendant is Scorpio. My moon is Virgo.
Yeah.
So-
So my rising sign is very much, let's get it done. Let's do it. And when I am determined, I am very determined. And it fits. It absolutely, and I never understood that. And I had a family member who I kindly struggled with often. And I found out that their rising sign was Libra. And it was all like, oh, la, la. And I was just like, oh, let's get it done. Like,
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
do it.
Libras want to weigh all of the options
like,
before they make
and
it.
right. And the person doing the reading said, that's why you butt heads, because there's no fire under their butt. You have all kinds of fire.
Yep.
And so I do feel that they do fit personalities and they do affect us. Now, I don't think that the horoscope always fits me every day, every time, but I do feel that they're very appropriate. I will read my rising sign if it doesn't match my sun sign.
Yes. Yep.
I will read my rising sign, which is for me is, so I'm a Cancer Aries, and it will fit more.
Mhm.
And I actually did that. I have it on a piece of paper. I saved it. I did every one of my children and my grandchildren and found all of our signs. And, the interesting thing about when I got this reading done is the lady, her name was Maria Shaw, and she's local in my area, and she's kindly famous. And she said she did my girls and we found out what their signs were. And it's interesting because each one of my girls, like I'm a Cancer and their father was a Scorpio. Each one of my girls had Cancer and Scorpio in theirs. And she said, because of that, you will always have a bond. They will always understand you. You will always feel like you're connected because we have the similar signs
Yep.
somewhere in our, I have one daughter who is a double Scorpio Cancer. That one's fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, no, I always
So-
think it's interesting with signs because even if you didn't believe it, but when I would read about it, especially with myself or my kids, it's like, wow, that's pretty accurate. But I always think of it too as in the way that there's things that we all have to work on when we're here. So we always
Yeah.
have like
Yep.
the really good stuff, and then there, like here's what you can, rise to, and also, what you have to work on, because I think some people are like, oh, I don't want to. I'm not like that. I'm not bad, but there's not really
Yeah.
anything bad about it. It just sort of is like, here's your personality.
point of reference. Yeah. Yeah.
it's all about
point of reference
what
for
you
the
gotta
information that you have to
learn,
work with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know reading some of my kids, like they've had their charts done, and I'm like, wow, that's accurate.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
them, yeah.
I mean, it's a good point of
So-
reference. I mean,
That's exactly, I used mine as a learning tool for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, point of reference, yeah.
I'm a Leo, and even with the supposed change, like to the, when they were proposing that, I'm still a Leo. They didn't change anything.
Yeah.
I'm
And
a
I've
Leo
got, like,
too. Leo,
Leo
Leo.
moon, Leo sun, like I've got Leo in a lot of things. So I'm
Leo
like,
and Aries.
yeah, just like a little ball of fire.
So,
I
I mean,
am Leo and Libra in my rising sun, and
okay.
then Scorpio in my moon. So
So the Libra and Scorpio influence means that you like all the detailed information. You need to analyze and let yourself feel it all. Yeah.
yeah, I'm overthinking things. Yes. What about Leo? How do you Leo? Let me see if we are alike. Let's see if it proves.
You got to look back at the context of the denial of information, right? Because the thing about astrology, that's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Information about it in cultures across the world, around the globe. It's been around for thousands of years. And the science that's actually denying it has only been around for about 150. So you have to understand that the patriarchal system likes to replace perceptions of reality with things that feed its agenda of patriarchal paradigms of reality, right? Control, right? The illusion of power through control. And the more information, the more points of reference that we have for ourselves and understanding ourselves, the more we can understand how to actually be present with ourselves and how to be able to identify those, limited belief systems that are impinging and keeping us from actually being present with ourselves. So the more
That's a
information,
good point. Yeah, that was almost like an ego trying to prove that why do people believe in something that the science says no, don't, because
I know,
there's-
right? Science says chi doesn't exist.
But
You all send emails, right?
Yeah. Energy.
Particle physics. It's energy. I'm like, microwave.
I mean, science still says that gravity is a force, and obviously we can see it happening, but they were trying to use the same proofs to see, if the astrology has the power of changing our personalities or influence our personalities based on the sign.
Well, the thing that science likes to do is arrive at a conclusion, at a judgment, right?
And then that's it.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to discuss. The science is settled, except science is actually based on empirical evidence.
Supposed
This
to
is
change.
about observation and notation and observing information
Mm,
and experiencing information.
right.
And if you are denying information, then you aren't actually observing it. You are already judging it, even before you've observed it. So this is where understanding the context, especially the historical evolution of some of these concepts, is really, really important. because it will demonstrate why something is being denied or dismissed. And it really, like, on a quantum mechanics level, from a Buddhist spiritual level, a Taoist level, astrology is all about the mechanics of the universe and the mechanics of, you know, the law of one, and the mechanics of actually being present. And the more information you give yourself to understand yourself, the more you can actually understand how to be present.
So what sign do you think Poonam is?
We're going to move away from the topic of science for a minute. And I'm going to
Okay.
bring up the question that I wanted to pose for today. And because April is going to leave early, right? So I want to make sure we discuss the question. Here we go. Put it in the chat. So the question was, my brother and I have two completely different views on life, social policy, approach to people, history, etc. I have asked him multiple times over the years not to talk about these topics or cut the conversation short, as it tends to get heated sometimes if I get triggered and don't step back. I'm struggling with him not respecting that, always having the last word in the conversation, sending me articles that support his views. Basically, I'm struggling with him not respecting my boundaries. My parents did not respect my boundaries, needs, and I'm facing other people regarding my needs and boundaries in everyday life. I'm actively working on this, on respecting myself so that I can fully let it go and not get triggered anymore. April, you want to get started on this and we go through the panel? Thank you.
I think that she's doing what she needs to do. She's aware of the problem. She's self-aware. She is putting boundaries into place. She is asking him to stop. He's just not listening. And she's already mentioned that the pattern is also not just playing out with the parents, the brother, but other people in her life. So that it is an issue that she has to face in this lifetime. It's something that she has to work on. So I would continue with the course that she's doing, and sometimes you have to reduce contact with some people who will not or refuse to follow your boundaries, or if they are toxic, because she says, I get triggered and I don't step back. Always having the last word. That's his ego. So that's another thing that I would do, is I would recognize his ego and recognize his need for control, his need to be right, his need to want her to agree with him. I would recognize the ego within him. And if you can step back and be okay with yourself, be okay with your own beliefs, be at peace with those, and then you can allow somebody else to have their belief. You can also see the ego in somebody else. And this is where I find that Eckhart chuckles, because when you get to a certain place where you have that inner peace, when you see the ego come up in somebody else, you can almost chuckle inside. It almost is funny. And I don't mean that in a mean way or a degrading way, but there's times where I will sit back if I see somebody's ego and it's very large and they're not outright hurting anybody, and I just kind of like, oh, that's a big one. That's a big one there. Wow. Right. But in order to do that, you have to be okay with yourself. You have to really, really be okay with yourself and believe in yourself. So that's another thing that I would do, is realize his ego, his pain body, if you want to call it that, that is just wanting. And we have this pattern of Kelly was just speaking of it. We have this pattern of needing others, everybody to believe the same thing, everybody to agree. And a lot of that does go back to the initial, tribal status of anything that looked different from us was danger. So we all must agree, we all must follow suit, but we don't have to. And for me, that's how I would approach this.
Mm. Beautiful.
Thank you, April. So it almost is what Eckhart would say is when I see that, it almost is like this person and her brother are in two egos, each attached to their opinion, right? Defending that opinion. This person, like it can be the left and right, let's say an example, right? Like somebody defending President Trump, somebody defending President Biden, and each one is stuck in their opinion, right? But they are not realizing that it is just a thought formation.
Well, and she's saying that she's facing that with others. So this is her struggle. This is where she's at. This is her struggle. And when you become aware of a struggle, it's kind of like when you want to buy a car and then all of a sudden that's all you see is the car you want to buy. You never seen that car before. You didn't see so many on the road. So now that she has noticed this boundary issue, now she sees it everywhere. And she could be feeling like, I have to fix this, I must defend. And that would make her, but they are both attached to their opinion. You can have your opinion, but that doesn't mean everybody has to agree with your opinion. And you can voice your opinion. But because the brother wants her to believe like him so much and insists that her thinking is wrong, he's having the last word, sending her, articles and things like that. And he is so that almost reminds me of, he's sitting there in his chair or laying in his bed at night and he's like, oh, I have to send this to her. I have to get more proof. I have to get, and when I have somebody who currently messages me very often about some conspiracy theory type things, and I actually, I don't read them. I'm not bothered by them. What I think is, I hope that you get to release this soon.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Somewhere there's a meme, right, where Eckhart says non-judgment, non-resistance, and non-attachment are three aspects of true enlightenment. So live with the world of form with a certain amount of detachment. Live with the world of form of attaching yourself to your opinion. Be detached from it, right? Don't be so attached that you're defending it, like as though you were defending your life, is what he's saying. Thank you, April. Phenomenal. Appreciate the guidance. Caesar, did you want to say something? You've been very quiet. You didn't jump in on the constellation and the astrology conversation.
Yeah, maybe. In regards to this question, yeah, I think it's you pretty much hit it on the head. April described it very well, also. But it's definitely okay. So she's recognizing the ego in the brother, but we also know that what you see in other people is a mere reflection of yourself at times, most of the time. And we know the biggest need of the ego is to be right. So I would use this opportunity, or the many opportunities, it sounds like, to actually practice surrender. Because at the end of the day, why such a need to be right? Doesn't matter. Regardless of what your view is, regardless what the topic is, the wiser we get in this lifetime, we realize what's important, and there's not a whole lot. Especially engage in a conversation that turns into a I'm right and you're wrong type of a thing. You have the last word. That, you know, brings up something in you. It's presenting an opportunity. That's the way you actively work on it. Practice. Allow him, voice your opinion if you must. Allow him to voice his opinion, and try to approach the situation without any thought behind it. Just fully listen. Because once the thoughts start coming in, while somebody else is speaking, you're not hearing what they're saying anyways. And instantly you will get that narrative, you know, of what your perception on the situation is. And there you have the division of right and wrong. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I kind of okay people to death anymore. And the more I do it, the more they poke and want the argument. Like, I know you're thinking that I'm wrong. Tell me what you're thinking. Okay. And that's it. It's over. I just, you know, you don't have to engage in that. It's so much more peaceful just to let others be right, regardless. There's a whole lot of joy in that. Like I said, if you know, let him get the football first and, you know, voice his opinion, and literally practice. Take the opportunity to practice, because again, if you can't get by little stuff like this, how are you going to surrender to the big things in life that happen? Like, you know, the passing of a loved one, or an illness that presents itself, losing a pet, you know, something like this, smashing a car. You know, these verbal communications that are all opinion based anyways really mean nothing. So let them be the opportunities that you create to practice surrender and acceptance. And you can also practice presence within that whole situation as well. Fully listen. I believe we spoke on this last week. Fully listen. You might even pull some knowledge out of it, because if you have a belief that differs from somebody else and they're giving you their opinion on it, you're not trying to hear any of it anyways, because you have this narrative like, oh God, blah, 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 and you're so wrong. But listen to what they're saying sometimes. In fact, all the time. Really give that to them. Look them in the eyes. Listen to every word, and don't have thought about it. Just listen. Let the pure consciousness within you determine a response, because there you'll find that 99% of the time, there might not even be a response. It's probably going to be okay. Okay. You know, I respect your opinion. That's fine. And the back and forth, well, you know, he got the last word. Let him have the last word and smile when you walk away. Not you, but him. Let him smile. Give him that joy if that's what he's looking for. And I know you, like, I went through this with a past relationship, and I knew it was, you know, her ego looking for food. And the more that I starved that end of the ego, and not in a fictitious way, not in a you know, sarcastic way, it was done very compassionately from this place of pure consciousness. So there's nothing derogative or you know, mean about it. It's just, I'm not engaging in it. I respect what you're saying. You know, I value your opinion. I heard every word you said, and, you know, I'm glad you feel that way. That's it. So take the opportunities to practice, the many opportunities within the conversations that you have with your brother and those around you. Surrender to the isness of the situation. It's only verbal words. What other people's opinions are on whatever it is has zero bearing. Zero can affect your very being. Zero. Unless you allow it to. And the only way you can allow that to happen is if you put thought behind it and you know, create an opinion about it. That's it. So I would just take that time and them situations to use it as an opportunity to practice surrender, because that's what this is all about. Surrender, forgiveness, acceptance. the end of the day, that's what it is. And as far as the astrology thing goes, yes, it's all energy. The quantum entanglement, it all starts there and ends there. When planets are in retrograde, it's going to affect you, depending on where you're at in the whole thing. Most people will get drained of the energy. Other people's energy gets really high strung and chaotic and, just crazy. So that's all.
Thank you, Caesar. So one of the things that I love what you said is just be the transparent or formlessness of presence and absorb that questioning or whatever opinion is coming through and let your consciousness just receive it, right? And allow it to be absorbed, like almost like what Eckhart would say, give it the spaciousness. And every time I see Caesar, I don't know why, Abraham Hicks's teachings come to my mind. It doesn't come to my mind when I'm talking to April or Kelly or anybody else. The moment Caesar speaks, this, what does she say, Caesar, that whose influence are you under and how are you dominating? Are you going to be that calibrated with source that you influence the other? Right? This also shows this person's lack of presence. Isn't that true?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the triggering that she's getting is, just like you said, where is your influence coming from? Are you dictating it? Are you under source influence, or the influence of source, or of self? The ego. It's one or the other.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I just wanted to repeat what Lakshmi had stated online. She said, underneath her brother's ego, there's an extreme need for validation and appreciation. There is an inner child who is still craving for them. So probably the listening would help validate that craving. Kelly and Kelly, do you all want to talk about the boundary setting? Because boundary setting almost is like, to me, it seems like a separation. Like you're separating, you're saying you are the other, I'm me. Then that's the ego, right? So you'll want to talk about that. And then it seems like a pattern, a limiting belief, because she says she has boundary setting issues with her parents and then now the brother. So it seems like a recycled pattern, right? So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate everything that everyone said. There are some really great insights there. And just to touch on a little bit what Lakshmi said about her brother wanting validation and appreciation, I think, yeah, it's right there. That I think that's mirrors what she also wants as well, that she wants validation and appreciation also for her opinion or just valued as a person. And one of the things that I thought of is that I'm assuming, I'm not sure what her emotion is when she gets triggered, but I'm assuming, and from my own personal experience, because with family, it can be very difficult because we want our family to accept us and we want to share our opinions and the things that we care about with our family. And it can be very triggering for us when we feel, and we can even be angry about it because they don't listen, or we shout. Like I have had, I should say, a similar situation with one of my sisters where we were always at each other from the time we were little. And we were always, as we get older, we realized that we really just each wanted to be heard. She wanted to hear me and I wanted her to hear me, and vice versa. So as we get older, we've been able to work through that. I think one of the things that this person, since they're recognizing the pattern, is to actually honor the fact that they're triggered and allow themselves to feel, if they feel angry, to find a spiritual coach or a teacher. I mean, April does that. I know Kelly and I do that with people, where you can just talk about it, the situation, and say, I'm like really triggered in this situation and I do not know how to step back, because it's very difficult to step back when you are triggered. And it's easy to say, yes, when you're triggered, that is an ego reaction. It is. But how do you stop that? But you stop that by allowing yourself to feel it and to go off and to honor the fact that, gee, this has been happening my whole life, or this has been happening for this number of years, or this continues to happen. I really want to change that. But in order to change that, I have to honor the fact that I feel angry about it first. And it doesn't mean that you project it at other people or you get angry, but I think that anger is something that nobody wants to feel. No one wants to talk about it. And I know from Kelly and I having to work through some of our own anger that we'd stuff down because people would say, I mean, when I was a child, I was labeled as, what was it, dramatic, I think. We all had our labels. So I didn't feel that I was ever allowed to express something either passionately or to say that I was angry about something. And we tend to not want to honor our own feelings because other people don't want to honor them because they don't honor their own feelings. And then everybody just wants to be heard and they're shouting. So for me, when I read that, I thought the first thing, if you're recognizing a pattern, is to honor that this is what you feel right now. It's not how you want to continue to feel, but how am I going to let go of that? How do I get rid of that? Because the more you allow yourself to feel it and then dissipate it, you can hold that space when someone's trying to push their opinion at you. And you can just be like, oh, okay, thank you. It becomes a lot easier because when we are triggered in the moment, then we want to defend. We get into that attack and defend because we feel like we're being attacked because we're not heard. But in order to step back, it's also to step back and honor that right in this moment, I feel angry. And I'm just going to feel like that until it just disappears because it's not going to last. We don't have to hold on to that. So, but by continuing to not look at that part of it, we recycle that every time we're in that situation when somebody's trying to push their opinion at us, for example, or something, because we're not actually honoring that emotion. Emotions are just emotions, whether it's a nice emotion where we feel really good,
Just information.
or it's, what we call a negative emotion. It's information. It's information for us. So what are we going to do with that? And that has to do with separation. But
Yes,
go ahead.
yeah.
You continue.
The reality of needing to be able to understand what information we are on the receiving end of is where healthy boundaries come in. Healthy boundaries are actually necessary at first to understand what actually fits and where our own emotional, mental capacities actually are. And until we actually take that step to understand where our capacity actually is in any given moment with different people, we will have a really hard time being able to actually step back into observation and appreciate the information that's actually coming up. So boundaries are really important. And sometimes we need to step away from communicating with people because they aren't actually respecting what we've asked of them. And this is where boundaries come in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is a first step. And this is not about separation. This is about practical emotional reality of giving yourself space to be present with what you are feeling so that you can observe it, so that you can process, integrate, and begin to heal. When we get stronger, it will seem like the boundaries disappear and we care less about it because our capacity has grown. And this is where the confusion is about, well, boundaries aren't necessary because we're all one, et cetera, et cetera. That's sort of, well, while it is true on one level, most people don't operate on that level. And most people will not energetically respect your boundaries if they have a program that is overriding everything and causing them to act out of a place of needing to be right, to control and influence. So being triggered is actually a really important point of context and information for understanding where our capacity actually is. Because when we are triggered, we have all of this information come up, and that's the key to understanding what we actually need. Because if we're triggered and we don't step into observation, but we let ourselves get triggered and hijacked and spin out of control, then we need to really establish some healthy boundaries and healthy spaces for us in order to build capacity to deal with our triggers, to deal with the information, the emotions, and the mental information that comes up. And then once we have that understood and established, then we can build stronger foundations for ourselves of observation and discipline and refinement that then make it seem as if the boundaries don't matter because we are so much stronger. So it's not like one or the other. There's steps and processes to understanding the thresholds and the spaces that we have to move through. And oftentimes, you know, the first step in terms of self-love and self-respect that people ever understand is actually establishing healthy boundaries. Because a lot of people are either conditioned to control other people to satisfy their ego, or to serve and please other people to validate their ego and their pain, and also to deny what they're feeling. So there are certain aspects of this that, while yes, again, it's true that we are all one, that we're all connected, and, you know, boundaries on a certain level, on a certain heart level, are, you know, not something that really exists on an energetic level. But in terms of a practical emotional capacity for actually learning how to be present with ourselves, and especially how to feel safe, boundaries are an essential first step. And if in this situation someone is being triggered and their family member is not respecting them, then, you know, take space and don't explain yourself, and take time for yourself, and don't feel that you need to explain yourself, because if the other person is an adult, they'll actually understand. They'll actually appreciate that, and they'll actually respect that, and they'll get the message. They will understand that you are taking space, and that you're not communicating is actually a pointed message. And this is sometimes needed. And it's just the way that it is. And this is one way to go about providing oneself with a practical boundary to give oneself space in order to actually heal and process.
And I had to giggle when April mentioned about giggling. Like, I
Oh,
know
yeah,
when
yeah.
when I've had anger come up like before in our relationship, and I could feel it coming up, and I know I'm triggered, I know it's my ego, but I'm just telling him that I feel angry right now. And then he would start giggling because he's so excited, because it means I'm letting go of something big.
Yeah.
And then I can remember the first time it happened, like the opposite. And I was like, oh, that's what he feels when I'm letting go of
Yeah.
something. So you can get to that point
Yes.
where you can hold space.
Yeah.
Even if someone else is trying to push at you, where you hold that space, and then it's like, okay,
But there are
Yeah.
practical steps that
but to get there is,
get
is
there.
work.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep. 3.5 cents.
Thank you so much, Kelly and Kelly. That's quite amazing. Thank you. How in sync both of you are. I wanted to quickly say what Lakshmi said after that. She said, if she can imagine her brother as a small child and have compassion for the child instead of getting triggered. So one of the things you said, Kelly, is initially we won't be able to like feel that oneness, right? We will try to separate ourselves. So I would still go back to what, even when we stop we kind of say, okay, I need my space.
Yep.
We can still remain connected. I would again repeat what Byron Katie says, right? I love you, but right now, it's not that.
Absolutely.
So you remain connected. You're not cutting off, because in a triggered situation, you may cut yourself off and say, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, to clarify, like nothing that I said was about cutting oneself off. It's about that practical reality of needing that space.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
and also like it's nice to say, to imagine the other person, but also to give that compassion to yourself, that you're also have an inner child or whatever that needs to be healed too.
Yeah.
So sometimes we give it away too much, and when we need to give it back here.
Yep.
So to remember both is important.
Beautiful. Self-compassion is needed. Thank you. Thank you for that. Ken, did you want to say something about this?
Oh, yes, I do. This
Thank
is
you.
like this is such a mirror of what I went through with my own brother. I was like the sister. And my brother, 4.5 years ago, was acting out. And I got to a point where I finally stood up to him. And what was happening is whenever he was around his brothers, because he has 5 brothers, and everybody was feeling not comfortable around him. And one day I started talking to him and I says, "You're just like Dad." And then that pissed him off. That upset him. And I said, "It's really annoying other people. They feel really nervous around you, just like we did how we felt when Dad was around." So, and all my life, I've always wanted people to like me. So I was doing, and I love what Lakshmi has said. I agree 100%. And I want to say with everybody, I feel like everybody was right on cue and how everybody expressed on their view of this. And here I am nodding myself like I'm a little nodding doll over here, and just agreeing and realizing. And so with my brother, one day I told him that his attitude was unacceptable. And then he acted like a 4-year-old and he left and didn't talk to me. And I knew that I had to make the first move. He lives in Vermont. He lives 4.5 hours away. So 3 different times over 3.5, 4-year period, I was the one who made the move. And he and I were very, very close. And so I would make the move. The first time I went up, he was still upset and angry. And I just went up there and knowing that's how he would be. And I said, I'm just going to love and accept him for where he's at. And then the second time was a little better. And then this last February, I called him up to wish him happy birthday. And he says, "By the way, when are you going to come back up here? I haven't seen you in a while." And I went, "Yeah." I says, "I'll be up next week." So it's like everything, but it took 4.5 years. Now to be around him, he never said he was sorry, never brought it up. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm learning, don't wait for words, wait for the actions. So I'm learning to read energy, I'm reading to read body language and so on. So, and it's amazing, once I started to break through that pattern, just like the lady was saying, all of a sudden, oh boy, it's there, it's there, it's there, and it's coming at me. And I'm like, okay, well, it's coming at me because I'm breaking through. And some days I could confront it, and other days I would fall back and relapse and act like I used to. So it's amazing how I learned the lessons. And then I'm thinking of me even coming on this group, how petrified I was to have the voice come out of me. And I can actually see more and more that there was so much inside of me, but I needed to break through the fear, and realizing that a lot of the fears I had, I was still 3, 4, 5 years old or even younger when they got developed, and I was just carrying them. So I'm learning to really be comfortable in the uncomfortability. And that's what I need to lean into. And I loved what Kelly was saying about, and I needed to love myself and realize that some days I'm going to be stronger than other days. And I couldn't forget about myself, because I was a people pleaser most of my life, and then people utilize that energy. And just because of my ego and the way I was, that's the way people, I've learned, that's the way people will treat you. It's almost like you're asking for it. It's almost like what you're putting out, you're getting back. And I'm understanding more and more about being in presence. When we are in presence, or not our ego, then we're going to connect with more healthy people. If I'm unhealthy and I have a lot of unconscious fears to work through, well, other people with unconscious fears are going to react to me unconsciously. And then that's what's going to bring the two unconscious fears together, and you can't work through things. So I'm really learning how this is working, and how and it's amazing. how things do come together. And, but I have to be willing to do my part. And I never really understood that because I was really dependent on others. And so I wanted to be rescued. And I'm realizing that I'm really working through the patterns, the unhealthy patterns that would develop from my family of origin or other people that I'm coming up against. It all depends on where my intuition's taken me. Whatever I need to work through, it seems to point me in the direction. So it's just amazing how if I need more pain and punishment, I'll get it. If I'm ready to work through something, that's what I'll get. It all depends on where I'm at in my level of consciousness. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken. So this person should actually look at their life situations where they're being triggered as moments of evolution, which these are tests, and they're going to evolve in each examination, right? It kind of reminded me when you were talking about how your brother, it kind of reminded me of that room analogy. We are also doing the book reading of Michael Singer's Untethered Soul. And this past weekend, we did part 4, where he uses this analogy of a room, right? All of us build a room, not so much a house with no windows, no, everything is, it almost felt like we have this cocoon, right? And we don't let any light come in. And so that cocoon is our ideas. Like we think we have to be belonging to a certain political party, we need to be belonging to a certain family, then we are moving around the same type of families. We discussed this on Saturday. We're moving around with the same type of people. So like if I take the example of the left wing and the right wing political parties, like the two cannot be together in the same room, right? So that cocoon, Michael Singer uses that, what Sadhguru calls a cocoon, and we feel safe in the cocoon, right? Let me be with my sort of people, my opinions. Any other opinion that opposes my opinion is not correct, right? Not realizing maybe the other person is right, right? So if you want to explain that Michael Singer analogy, Ken.
Yes, he was just saying that with that analogy, that not all people are going to agree with us. And to understand that there is more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. There's more than one way to describe that. And we feel it in ourselves in learning not to feed what someone else is believing or saying. That is where they are at, and you are where you are at. And it's very, very important to just be in that energy field of yourself, feel that security and feel that oneness. It's like it's your path, and you need to put your own dots together in order to be seen and heard, and to have your belief system. So
it almost is like if somebody comes to me, if somebody is coming up with another opinion, it's time to question it, right? Is it true? Use Byron Katie's, is it true? Is it absolutely true? Who would I be without the thought, right? That this should not be so, right? If somebody says, what was the conversation that were happening before? That astrology is not a true science. Is that true? Are we absolutely sure that it is true? Who would I be without the thought that astrology is not a true science? So,
right.
Thank you.
Yes, and I just want to add one thing about the astrology. As the conversation was going on, I'm thinking of ourselves. We're all like planets because we all have different energy. So my energy with each one of you will be different. And so it's just kind of made me smile to realize that how sometimes our higher self will be drawn to what we need to learn. And it's through the energy. And I love how the planets work, because I can't tell a full moon or certain planets. And I'm like, boy, this is really mirroring humanity and people and how we interact. So it's just another way of looking at yourself. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I'll put this in the chat. Tobey said, also, it also is very nice to overcome the need to having to explain, prove ourselves to anybody. So yeah, I think our group is very much in presence because we all don't feel the need to explain and improve ourselves to anybody. Thank you so much, Ken. So coming to Patricia, before Patricia talks about the question, I wanted to say that the planetary alignment is so important that Sadhguru talks so much about the spine. And that's why even Tony Robbins talks about the Agascu method, is because if our spine is in alignment with the earth and the sun and the planets, then the download of information from source is perfect. And that's why Qigong matters, because Qigong is the physical body science, right? How our body aligns with the whole cosmos. You want to say something, Kelly, before Patricia speaks?
The whole concept of Qigong is about being the bridge between heaven and earth. So understanding the physical body and the actual energy alignment of the spine is key to actually understanding our alignment with the source.
Beautiful. Thank you. So you can, anytime you're questioning it, right, Patricia, take a few classes with Kelly and you'll know the difference. Because I do know, like I've done Kim Ing's Qigong and it does make a difference. And you want to talk about this question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great way, yes, to align yourself. I did few of those Igasku, exercises, and it's incredible how fast, after just few seconds, you can completely fix your alignment. So I do it during the day, and it brings instant huge difference. When I was listening to all of you speak, and then also the question, what came up for me is gratitude. The way I healed or came to presence with being triggered, because, oh my goodness, I was triggered nonstop. At some point, I was just exhausted. And the only way to stop reacting was being completely tired. That was my body's way to just. So now I turn into gratitude. If I see a situation, if I witness the situation that something arises, I am saying thank you. Gratitude. And even the person that brings it, I used to see them as my enemy. I used to see someone I had to fight or defend myself against or fear. Right now, I welcome them as a messenger. I was like, okay, so there's still there something I need to look into. I thought that I worked on it, but it's still here. Thank you. So not trying to prove that I need to build the boundary, that, oh, this is my boundary and I have to fight for that boundary. It means that this is another boundary that needs to go down. And I agree completely with Kelly that first we need to set them because we don't know, right? So the healthy boundary has to be there because something is happening, but then with time, when we work on ourselves and surrender and being grateful for that, then the boundary disappears. And that all of a sudden, this trigger will not come up. anymore. It's going to be a different one probably because we move on. So it's almost like working on our karma, working on our pain body, because for me, triggers come up where the pain body is, and pain bodies are the energetic formation that needs to feed on the same energy, and they will like stay dormant until, you know, some situation come up that gets triggered. So all of this makes very big sense for me. But also what worked for me was the 16 or 17 second rule from I think Abraham Hicks, that in the minute, if I start feeling physically, what Kelly also said, you know, your body will start before your even thoughts come up. Then that 16 seconds, just let it through. And then it just moves on. If we start trying to figure out why am I feeling that, what it is, and giving another more attention, that's when we're gonna get stuck and triggered even more. So 16 seconds, that's the great practice. And also Eckhart suggests that we practice presence when we are not triggered. In like ideal situation, when it's peaceful, we practice being present using nature or breath. So then when the situation come up with the trigger, we will be much faster to catch it. So we can actually feel it and have that 16 seconds and actually practice it. So, and it's getting better and better with each time. So give yourself time to just practice presence outside the triggered situations. So then when the trigger come, you just see it as, okay, this is a trigger. Thank you. And just surrender to it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Patricia. So countdown, right? She says count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until 17, right? And the emotion, just like Kelly was saying, right? Feel the emotion. Because even Jill Bolte Taylor says in her book, what is it? I can't remember the book by Jill Bolte Taylor, but when she was interviewed by Oprah, she said it takes 90 seconds for emotions to pass. Jill Bolte Taylor was somebody whose right brain was damaged by some kind of meningitis or bacteria, and she lost her whole, so she just had her left brain where consciousness flows. So she could experience this compassion and empathy a lot more, right? And she had to learn language. She had to learn all the right brain activities, relearn everything. And she says it takes 90 seconds for emotions to pass through. So allow yourself that 90 seconds. So then that trigger will soon dissipate.
Right. So you're not attaching yourself. That's what you mentioned before, non-attachment, non-judgment. Because even saying, oh, my brother needs to be right, he always wants, that's a judgment on him too, right? And resistance of it. So it becomes, you know, an information that it's still something that the person needs to work on. So not only she's judging the brother, she's resisting the situation, she's trying to fix it and not really seeing as a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. I want to ask Ashok if he has anything to say. I know Ashok has joined us online. Good evening, Ashok. Good to see you.
Good evening. Thanks, Poonam. I think most points are well covered. There are a few thoughts that I have. So one thing is it reminded me of the quotation of, it is more important to be kind than being right. So that's, I think maybe this is what like Lakshmi is referring to when you have compassion and kindness. It's a way of diffusing, and the other person also changes. Maybe not first time, but like it happens over time. I was also thinking these two people are in each other's lives for some reason. These are not strangers, these are siblings, right? So these two people are in each other's lives for very good reasons, to learn, to connect, and to be family. So that's where I was going. And it also reminded me of what Sadhguru always says, like what happens to us externally, through externally, that's not always in our control, but what happens within us, that got to be in our control. I know it's easy to say, it's a lot of practice, and we all get triggered. We all have different trigger points, but that's the practice, that's the learning. How we can, when we are in so much presence, and when we really not so much to be right, to understand, to connect, the whole energy changes, and that's how the connections are made. So those are kind of a few things I thought of. And also, it's like we're not taking personally, whatever. So of course, his brother, he's acting out of his own samskar, out of his own awareness, and that's on him. So he has his own path when he gets to more involvement. But it's always, as we always talked about, bringing focus on to myself. What is it I can do in this situation, in this moment? Am I being fully present? Am I being fully compassionate? And what energy am I bringing to this moment? I think that's what the learning is. I know we touched on boundaries. I don't think about those. I don't think along boundaries or anything. It's more about as we become a lot more aware of ourselves. Of course, as you assert yourself, of course, in any conversation, if you have an opinion or anything, you got to communicate and assert yourself. So I think that kind of that takes away the need for boundaries in my kind of my thinking. So those are my thoughts, and I think all shared really beautiful points. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ashok. Incredible. I think April has to leave early, so we'll end the session now. This was an incredible discussion. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for keeping the conversation alive while I was disconnected. Infinite gratitude to everyone here on the panel, as well as online, Lakshmi and Tobe and Seal and Christina and Nada and Summer have joined. So many blessings, much love. Good night.